Welcome to The Link, and this week we're discussing taxation. Tomorrow the budget will be read by the finance minister, and there are the number of tax measures that are coming at you. And we decided to focus this night on SMEs. We'll be back with my guest soon. Welcome back again. My guest is Francis Kamulegeya, country partner, PWC, PricewaterhouseCoopers. Welcome, Francis.
Thank you, Sam.
For a while, as we saw in the preamble, government has kept away from increasing many taxes, if you like. But this time round, they have come at the business community and many other Ugandans. But today we'll focus on SMEs.
Right.
First, take us through some of the key tax measures that the SMEs are going to expect to come at them.
Thank you, Sam. For starters, there are no specific tax measures that are targeted specifically to the SMEs. Having said that, SMEs are the biggest private sector of the economy, comprising nearly up to 80–90% of the entire private sector, and they create employment in the economy, and most importantly, they make a very, very big contribution in terms of taxation, close to about 20% of the GDP. So since this particular slot is focusing on SMEs, I'll talk very briefly about 3–4 key measures, yes, which if you are a small, medium enterprise, you really should be concerned about. The first one is VAT withholding. VAT withholding is going to require all big companies, NTV or PWC, who buys from a small enterprise, which enterprise is not registered for VAT, and they are making a payment of over 37.5 million shillings. 37.5 million shillings is basically a quarter of the VAT threshold, which is 150 million.
Yes.
So if you are a small, medium enterprise and you're not VAT registered, and you should be VAT registered, but somehow you've managed to avoid registering for VAT, a new law is coming with effect from 1st of July, which will mean that when a person, a company, a client, customer is making a payment to you, and they're paying more than 37.5 million shillings, and you are not, you don't have a VAT number, that person will be required to withhold 50% of 18% of the amount that you have invoiced.
Quite some numbers there.
It is, yes.
Before you continue, Francis.
Yes.
So how do I know I'm supposed to be registered for VAT now?
Very, very good question. VAT is designed in such a way that it's a transaction tax on value addition. So if you are in a business and you are making supplies, or your sales on an annual basis are more than 150 million shillings, if you break that down in terms of monthly, if your sales are more than maybe 12 million shillings, the law requires you to register for VAT. And if you are not VAT registered, it means that actually you are depriving government of taxation, because VAT is supposed to be a tax incurred by the customer, not you, the business.
So it's 12 million per month, and for the year it's about
144 million. Okay. So for the year it's 150 million.
Okay, let's move on to the next one.
Yeah. The next one is the 1% tax on mobile money.
Yeah, that one.
That one again will apply to all of us, but again for SMEs, because one of the new innovations that have really been taken on by small medium enterprises, especially those who are outside the formal banking sector, is the manner in which they've really embraced technology, and in particular mobile money banking. So mobile money transactions, depositing, withdrawing, transferring, making a payment, you're going to be paying 1% for every amount that you transact. I've shared my views in the past. I think it's a very punitive tax. It's not well informed. It's actually a very, very strange tax, because for once we are seeing government taxing movement of money.
So if I am paying salaries, and I'm paying salaries on all these people, these casual workers,
yes,
now my cost goes up, right?
Sam, if you're an SMA and you're paying tax to the URA using mobile money, you're going to pay tax on tax. It's that absurd.
Okay, let's get ready for that one. The third one, Francis.
The third one is SMEs who are in the mobile money business, and in particular who are in the business of selling airtime, are going to be required to pay tax of 10% withholding. In the past, they've been paying 6% as an advance tax.
Yeah.
So if you are a big airtime dealer and you're doing, say, sales of, say, 100 million, when Airtel or MTN is paying you, they would withhold 6%, but that would be an advance tax. And if you're filing your return, you would claim it as a tax credit.
Okay.
Now government is saying they'll take 10% from you. The obligation to collect that tax is on the main telecom company which pays you, and they'll have to take that from you, and that's the final tax.
So telecom must do you a favor to collect?
Well, they're doing the government's job to collect,
okay,
but it's going to be a heavy burden on the SME, because 10% on gross sales is a very, very high tax.
I can imagine.
Compared to 6% in the past, which was an advance tax.
Okay.
The other one, don't know if we still have time, would be the VAT withholding. Now, VAT withholding is also going to apply, just like the one I talked about earlier on, if you're not VAT registered. Now, this one will apply to those who are VAT registered. There's a very, very big problem right now government is dealing with in terms of VAT fraud, and you may have seen the articles in the papers 2 weeks ago. The truth is, there are just so many companies that are claiming VAT fraudulently, and they're hurting the economy, and they're hurting tax collection. So now government is coming in with a measure which also is going to hurt business in a way, but I hope that they will exempt those who are compliant. And they are saying that if I make a payment, if my company PWC makes a payment to the person who supplies me with stationery, that person invoices me with VAT. In the past, I've been paying the full invoice. So if invoices me with 100 plus VAT, 118.
Plus the VAT.
Yes. Now, I'm going to be required to only pay him 100 and then withhold 0.5% of the 18, which is 9.
Which is 9.
And then pays over directly to the government. In addition to that, he will be required to actually file a return and show that whatever it is that he collected from me, he has paid over to government. If he hasn't, then not only is he going to be made to pay it, but also he's going to have to pay a very big penalty. So
that means the SMEs must also do their homework here to make sure they get those things right. We want to move on, Francis.
Yes.
There must be one good thing in the law that SMEs can look forward to.
There are quite a number, by the way. And before even we look about we look into the new law, the tax regime is designed in such a way as to ease the burden of compliance on small, medium enterprises. If you're a small company and your turnover is below 150 million shillings, you don't have to register for VAT. That means you can actually be more competitive, because instead of charging VAT on your sales, you don't charge VAT, so your price can be lower compared to VAT registered. Secondly, if your turnover is less than 150 million shillings, again, the law allows you to, if you're VAT registered, the law allows turnover of 500 million shillings. The law allows you to collect VAT on a cash basis, meaning that you don't pay VAT until your supplier has paid you. But most importantly, from an income tax perspective, there is what we call a presumptive tax regime, meaning that if your turnover, if your sales for a whole year is less than 50 million shillings. Instead of having to prepare accounts and keeping records and paying tax of 30% on profit, the law requires you to pay only 500,000 shillings. 500,000 shillings sum, regardless, on a turnover of 50 million is 1% tax. Many SMEs don't know about that, and they are losing out on that incentive. But actually, it is aimed at 1, easing compliance, 2, easing the tax burden, and 3, making it very, very easy for you to meet your obligations while remaining competitive. Very
good. We have 2 minutes to go here. We move fast here. So how should SMEs prepare, especially for those measures that are coming at them, not in a positive way?
Okay. Number 1, be compliant. It's very, very easy actually to be compliant. You simply need to Revenue Authority, I know they are doing quite a number of budget breakfasts. They are free. I would really strongly encourage, taxpayers, the business community to attend. There's a very big one on the Hotel Africana on, I think it's Monday next week. But most importantly, most importantly, be compliant, seek guidance from the Revenue Authority, from the Uganda Investment Authority, from your Manufacturers Association, or come to advisors like ourselves. We do a lot of it even without charging fees for that.
I didn't know that.
We do a lot of that, by the way. That's the best we do in terms of what I'm doing here actually is part of that.
I know, I agree.
Secondly, keep your records. Very, very important. When it comes to taxation, there is no way around it. You can run and hide, but eventually they'll get hold of you. And you've seen what has happened recently in terms of VAT fraud. Thirdly, you have to be talked about being compliant, keeping your records, and most importantly, seek advice and work with competent advisors and tax accountants. Okay.
Looking forward to the budget tomorrow. What is there to look forward to?
It's a very, very open secret. A lot of new taxes, higher burden on the government in terms of borrowing, a bigger deficit than the projected last time round, a very ambitious revenue collection target of close to 17 trillion, about 16.7, an additional 1 trillion shillings coming from this economy, and I suppose to me the good news is some modest growth in the economy, 5.5 projected. Having said that, the story tomorrow will be, where is that growth? We don't feel it in our pocket, and I think that's a valid question to ask.
Very good. I have a couple of minutes added to me.
Yes.
If I was generally a business,
yes,
outside taxes,
yes,
where should my eyes go?
Yeah.
If I'm listening to the budget speech, what should I look out for as a business, maybe opportunity, especially in this budget?
I think it's really hearing what government has done with the money they collected from us last time.
That's an important issue.
Because the biggest issue with this budget, it's not just about the new taxes, it's not about the allocation, but what did you say last year and what have you done? Because the biggest challenge we have in our country right now, the low tax effort and the low level of compliance, people tell you that, why should I pay tax when I don't see the benefit? And you don't have a choice. You have to pay tax first.
Tax, yes.
Then you ask government to be accountable. But on the other hand, also government has to be accountable. Taxation creates a social contract between the state and the citizens. And if you do not show value for the taxes collected, if people have the view that some people are benefiting and others are not, there's no transparency, the governance is not the way it should be, then always the compliance, voluntary compliance, always going to be an issue. So I'm hoping that there will be more accountability, there will be a commitment to doing the things right, walking the talk this time around, because almost every year you have a theme for the budget. Yes. Industrialization, job for the youth. But nobody comes back to you and says, our theme last year was industrialization. Over the last 12 months, these are the new industries that we've had.
We sort of live the theme.
Exactly. So every year a new theme, a new theme, a new theme. And it's just become sort of a ritual just to have something really catchy and attractive and glossy on the paper, and read the paper and read the statement and move on. So we want more accountability, and most importantly, value for money, and also transparency in terms of what's happening, and then also make people be more demanding of people. My other concern, Sam, I know we're running out of time, is there are so many tax exemptions within the system. Some of them are so discretionary, some of them are actually designed in such a way as to benefit a few people.
There's a 4 trillion worth of exemptions?
Well, a lot more than that, but there are exemptions which in my view have really past their sell-by date. Maybe they were relevant in 1996, maybe in 2003, but right now, in my view, there's need for a complete overhaul of all those exemptions so that there's a level playing field and we compete fairly.
Will the government, lastly, be able to collect these tax targets from this kind of economy where we're coming from? I want a bit of optimism, but realistically.
You see, if government follows through with collecting 1% on mobile money transactions, in the budget, background to the budget framework paper, they talked about 150 billion. I know how much money goes through the treasury. I know how much money goes through the mobile money platform. That figure alone can generate over 600 billion shillings. It's a lot of money to take from the economy for no value added. So I think they'll collect the money because of the modest increments that they've come up with, but there are quite a number of taxes that, in my view, are quite ill-informed, punitive, not the right policy for the kind of economy that we have.
Thank you so much, Francis. It's been a short time to thresh these tax issues.
Thanks, sir.
If you're an SME, please take care, because this has meaning for your business. Look out for those things you don't understand in the new taxes to make sure that you're on top of things and business looks good going forward. That was The Link. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, sir.
Newsbite is brought to you by Safe Drive Uganda, improving road safety.